Welcome to the AI Literacy live briefing from Brilliant Noise. I'm Antony Mayfield, I'm the CEO of Brilliant Noise. This briefing is to launch our new paper on AI literacy, which is the result of the work we've been doing really over the last year and a half. Everyone in the team in Brilliant Noise over this last year has gone on their own AI literacy journey and have ended up in very different places, actually, honing different skills from creative and copywriting to data analysis to even software production, which was a surprise to everyone as we don't have anyone on the team who is a software engineer, but more of that later. The reason that a year on we're still saying that this is an urgent situation for companies to explore and to discover what's possible with AI, as we'll say a couple of times, it's a process of discovery more than it's a process of design, and it's a process of discovery rather than of procurement, of going out and buying solutions. We're seeing a year on a lot of the large tech companies offering AI products, some of them very good, some of them very patchy, and a lot of our existing software providers, a lot of SaaS companies are talking about the dangers of AI and of DIY AI and trying to put uncertainty out there. But the reason that research and learning and literacy for all of us in business is so important is that we've got two kind of increasing things with increasing velocity that form a vector of possibility. We've got the technology, which is increasing still at a very fast rate. It is predicted to go on for another 2-3 years at least with generative AI. The processing power, the amount of money that's going into that processing power to build the models, the software that runs what we call AI, generative AI. I should stress I'm talking about generative AI throughout the whole of this presentation, and I'm presuming that I'm talking to a mainly non-technical audience. We're not going into machine learning or any of the details. This is AI for the rest of us, for all of us. But the technology is advancing at an incredible pace. But at the same time, if the technology stopped today, if we got no more models after today, which is highly unlikely, we would still have 5 to 10 years of innovation and business innovation that would be happening. We would still be inventing the things that really revolutionize the business landscape, even if everything stopped right now. So we haven't seen those businesses yet. We haven't seen the technology mature yet. But unlike every other technology that's come along, it's available to everyone in the world with an internet connection. And that's where the discovery part of this vector comes in. People are finding uses. What's being sold to us in terms of the access to the models like ChatGPT is really just access to the energy, access to a tool-making tool that we can do with whatever we want. So first of all, what we're going to do is take a look at this concept of AI literacy. It sounds quite dry, it sounds quite academic, but it's vitally important that we understand that it's what it is and that it is actually challenging to acquire it. We've all acquired literacies in our life. The first one we acquire is the ability to read words and to read and write text. It's very difficult at first. It's exciting once we're through that barrier, and then we never really stop learning through our lives. Another comparison we'll make is to language and to learning a foreign language. It's very much like that as well. And these are non-technical metaphors intentionally, but they really tie up closely with the experience of learning to speak. You need people in your teams, and especially in your leadership teams, to be developing their AI literacy so that they're able to understand and explore themselves, but also so that they can make better decisions about how they're going to invest in it in the future as their industry changes, as your industry, your customers, your organisation inevitably changes. So here's our definition that we're working with at the moment. So AI literacy is an evolving set of skills. It includes critical thinking, knowing the limitations of AI systems and the ability to assess their outputs and understanding where they can complement or enhance human cognition and expertise in a specific given field. It's the ability to understand and evaluate artificial intelligence systems and tools in a responsible, ethical, and effective way. All of those elements are really important. First of all, evolving. The skills that are involved in using AI are changing very rapidly. They start off more or less the same and then they evolve in lots of different directions. Knowing the limits to enhance limits of AI is really important as well, because when you're dealing with these systems, knowing that they aren't very good at maths, that they hallucinate, knowing that sometimes they need information structured in a certain way. So knowing where their limits are and also knowing your own limits as a human is really useful, because these aren't magic thinking machines that can do things for us. They're amazing thinking systems that we can engage with and think with that supercharge human intelligence, really. The knowledge that you have about how your world works and the data that you have about how your industry or your clients work, that's the stuff that you're going to be able to make more valuable. How a lawyer uses ChatGPT is different to how a marketer uses ChatGPT, and neither of the ways that they use it will be exactly the same as anyone else. It's your innovation, your thought processes. We're used to standard issue software. This is one of the big things that gets in our way. We're used to standard issue software that does something for everyone, and actually we're talking about very personalized software and tools that we're building for ourselves. It's a tool-making tool. And then lastly, responsible. Really, we're often talking about security and being responsible with data and being responsible with how we use them. It's very important to be clear on that at all times. And privacy is often a big blocker for companies. It's the kind of bugbear that we put up to stop ourselves really engaging with the subject. But it's quite easy to overcome if you look at what's being shared where and policies to make sure that customer data is secure, that commercially sensitive data is secure. Ethics is an individual or an organisational matter. In our workshops, very useful conversations are had when we look at the company's values and try and apply them to AI. And of course, effective. We've got to find the ROI in here. We've got to find the way that it's effective. This diagram is underlining that AI is as good as your brain is. It will help you with skills that maybe you're not so great at. It will make the things you're really good at amazingly good, but you've got to work out your own processes and workflows with that. Once you start working with AI, it naturally encourages you to see systems, to see the systems of companies and see the systems of working with it. It's usually that you fix something simple and then you realise that in order to do more with it or to be able to share it with colleagues, you actually need to fix something over here, a data format or a way of working. There's something over here as well. So you start to see things in systems quite quickly. This very jargony phrase, but I think very useful one, is metacognition. This is a word from neuroscience psychology, but it's the ability to think about thinking. This comes in more and more as you work with AI and you become more advanced. If you can understand how you think about things, then you can work more effectively with the machine because you're spotting the weak spots, spotting where it can speed you up. As with all things, I think a growth mindset, a learning mindset is really important here. Let's just touch on some of those limits of the brain. The more that you understand about them, the better you can work. And this is doubly so with AI. But it's some of the basics that have come through in neuroscience in the recent years. Thinking fast and slow from lots of other popular works of neuroscience. And we've spent a fair bit of time talking to neuroscientists as well. One of the things about the brain is you only have 3 working memory slots, maybe 5, but 3 is probably more likely. That means you can only remember 3 chunks of data at a time. Any more than that, you become overloaded, which is why you need lists or to write things down or an abacus. Those are all mind-extending technologies. It's quite easy once you get overwhelmed to become quite stressed, and once you become stressed, you can't think clearly. That's a fairly fundamental limit on human thinking that we ignore all of the time. But you may know we can only focus on 90 minutes maximum. Anyone been in a 2-hour meeting lately? Nobody can focus for that long. 4 hours a day of high quality work, of high quality heavy lifting cognitive work is possible. Blind spots. We've got lots of cognitive biases, we've got little things that we just don't notice that we think we know. The more you know about how the brain works and unique features, because there is no such thing as a typical human brain. We all have very different brains. It's something we're becoming more and more aware of with neurodiversity. So moving from theory into practical examples. In terms of integration, We've been using AI in everything we do. We thought what would happen is that we would be running campaigns but also developing this kind of strategic idea about AI. What happened was, because we were all becoming AI literate, it became integrated into everything. So even as something as simple as the workshops that we do, that whole process changed as we did more of these workshops with AI, because suddenly we were able to take photos and convert them into notes, for instance. But also we started asking people, when they had an idea about how they might use AI, to put it into a web form instead. And that would automatically take it through to a database, and that database would automatically, using ChatGPT, write a use case and write some next steps and suggested priority scoring for it. So at the end of the workshop, instead of having lots of post-it notes, we were able to go back to clients with a database of possible AI bots. One big breakthrough for us, very exciting, we've got a product just coming to market now, which is we run content hubs, and we were able to take real data about customers and social media data and gather that and turn it into mini chatbots based around that data and give them personalities and allow them to talk as a way of bringing personas to life. And then we were able to use them to test content and react to content. Now, these are not real people, so this is strange, but think of it less as not real and more like a simulation of a campaign that's reaching those people. And we're able to get test results from them, which we actually found were highly predictive of what good results would be. Then, of course, AI for content repurposing is worth mentioning as well. I don't know if anyone has seen Notebook LM. It's Google's latest product. You can put any number of PDFs and notes into it and turn that into a conversational podcast where two presenters talk to each other. But that's just one example of how you can take content from one place and turn it into something else in moments. One of our favourite demonstrations we did recently was going to a YouTube video where every YouTube video has a transcript, copying it, and then taking that transcript, refining it through ChatGPT, and generating really high quality articles from that. If you ask ChatGPT to generate articles about your company, it's not going to be great, but if you give it great content that's your content, it can do all sorts of things in terms of repurposing it. So things evolve really fast. So how do you do it? Really, it's about getting people onboarded properly into AI literacy and then to keep them moving. And how you keep them moving is motivation and processes, and that motivation is just very often what we call AI vertigo. It's moments of just absolute amazement and breakthrough that keep people pushing on. So it's introducing people, it's finding ways for them to experiment safely, responsibly, giving them the support to do that, and then finding breakthrough projects where you can do something really big. Those breakthrough projects can be completely game-changing for companies in terms of how they're doing business. You find the most difficult problem and you start to be able to build either new processes or even new software prototypes to deal with them. And again, this is non-technical people. Once you get to the stage where it needs to be enterprise level ready, you can start talking to software developers. But you're miles ahead of where you would have been in the olden days of last year, when you had to send them a brief and kind of start mocking up things. These are the three phases of innovation. First of all, onboarding. Leaders and teams. I can't overstress the importance of getting leaders on board. We do something called a Power Hour, working through a difficult task with them and showing them how fast they can do it just with simple AI tools that they've got access to. Once everybody's running with those sorts of innovation programs and coming up with those ideas, you need systems to capture them and to manage the governance on that innovation. And pretty soon it becomes something that boards need to talk about. And we do fractional chief AI officer work, and boards are beginning to look at hiring chief AI officers as well, not just for the technical sides, but for the cultural and organisational dimensions of things. The point of onboarding with AI literacy is to give people a good 10 hours of working with the model for them to gain a kind of basic literacy. That's a number from Ethan Mollick over at Wharton Business School. He says it takes about 10 hours to get a feel for basic fluency with an AI model, which I would agree with. So we started doing these AI power hours as one-off interventions. It's incredibly powerful. You get somebody who's really experienced in working with AI tools. You sit down with somebody on a task that typically is going to take about 4 or 5 hours, say, an afternoon. You break that task down into constituent steps and you apply AI tools to it. And try not to overpromise at the start, but generally you get the afternoon's work done. We record those sessions and then give them back a report on the tools and methods that they used and things that they could try next. So a boost or an intervention. The big thing that we learned all the way through with teaching anyone of any level, but especially leaders, about it is you have to feel it, you have to get hands-on. It's a case of show, then tell. There's no point just talking about how big this opportunity is or what it's going to do for the organisation. You've got to get in there and help them feel it. So you've got these different levels, foundational, intermediate and advanced of AI literacy. Pre-literate is people who are trying out AI but haven't really used paid versions. The paid version of ChatGPT is still miles ahead of where the old one is. Pre-literate, you're querying it, you're treating it like a search engine. It's a playful thing and you get benefits. There's a lot of novelty. Let's turn the meeting report into the Dolly Parton song. Why not? At a foundational level, this is where we get people onboarded and start putting structure to that and to learning that literacy. The objective there is really about speeding up tasks. And as we go up the levels, it's tasks, then process, then system. Task, we're going to be taking an attitude of this is practice, this is a practice. We are practicing AI. It tends to be on an individual level. You're using one tool, usually paid for, so you're getting the benefits of being able to do more prompts and more complicated things. And you learn about things called structured prompts, which is how you ask the questions of the AI to get much better results. And how to build bots, which when you're on level 0 sounds incredible, but is super straightforward. And that can speed up your tasks a lot. Then you move to an intermediate level, and this is a conscious effort. You don't naturally segue into this. That's where we see the companies running innovation programs, and they're beginning to innovate around the whole process of doing something and bringing AI into it. You're going to be using a portfolio of tools, probably more than just ChatGPT, if that's where you start. You're going to be using things like Claude, you're going to use maybe image models, and you're going to be starting to connect bots so they're talking to each other. And then the advanced level, this is really at the system level, you're looking at the whole organisation, and this is where you're going to start inventing things. So they're beginning to be able to do data analysis or basic software engineering. They're discovering edge tools and they're creating systems. You don't need to go to that level, but you definitely want some people who get to that level on your team because you can do incredible things. The benefits are really interesting, but what we can see in terms of ROI is we can see the far future ROI on generative AI really easily. It's $15.7 trillion will be added to the global economy. That's the equivalent of 5 UKs by 30, according to PwC. And we can see the really close stuff. We can see the benefit of productivity gains from that task level stuff. What's hard is the bit in the middle, which is what people usually refer to as the ROI, which is where am I going to get the payoffs. So you get your productivity and innovation gains, you get your strategic advantage by beginning to innovate faster. And you also have people who are harder to fool. They're much more critical because they've got a basic understanding of how it works and what doesn't work. They're also more curious. They're finding lots of use cases all over the place, and they're developing fluency. They're bringing it into their workflows a lot more. And as I say, it kind of splits into that near ROI and that next ROI. The ROI of AI literacy, of being able to use these tools, one of the payoffs is that when a new feature comes out, you can usually apply it straight away because you were already wishing it was there. Our point is, AI literacy is the best investment your organisation can make right now. Everything is in flux, everything is moving, but if you are getting people to develop skills in using and working with AI, they're going to be more ready for whatever comes next, and they're going to be delivering a lot of benefits now in terms of productivity and quality of work and those sorts of things. You can measure that, but I wouldn't say obsess about that because the value is going to come from the fact that the world is changing faster than it ever has, especially in this technology.